Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman. Today, got a real treat for you. His name is Eric Volk. He is the Public Works Superintendent for the City of New Brighton in beautiful, sunny, snowy Minnesota. Eric, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Nice, nice, nice. So, Eric, you are the Public Works Superintendent. I love these titles because nobody really knows like what that job does, what that title is. But let's hit the rewind button a little bit. Let's take it back to how you got into Public Works, kind of where you started at, and then we'll get into like your day to day and what Public Works Superintendent actually means and what it does.
Sure. So, I come from a long line of city workers. My grandpa was a public works foreman back in the day for a little city, Circle Pines, local here, little city about 5,000. My dad was a city worker for 42 years. My uncle was a city worker for 30 plus. Another uncle did it for a long time. My brother was a city worker. So it just kind of seemed natural, but it wasn't intentional. After I got out of the Army, I did some siding work, for a company my mom and my stepdad own. I did that for a little while, and working for a family can be a little bit tough. So one day my mom said, you need to go find a real job. And so I applied for the City of Blaine, which is a up and coming, getting bigger city around here, and started in the Parks Department, did that for about 3 years and got a little bit bored. It's a great place to work. So I switched to the utility department, started working in the water and sewer, and did that for about another 9-10 years. Went out to City of Elk River, worked for Elk River Utilities as a water superintendent, and then 6.5 years or so came here, and I've been here about 3.5 years. So it wasn't intentional at all. I intended to get the job just to fill the gap because I had my GI Bill to use up, and I needed to work at the same time. And it just worked out. I didn't know I wanted to be a welder, an electrician, something. I knew college wasn't for me at the time. And it just kind of worked out, and I really enjoyed it, and happened to be that I was okay at it.
Nice, nice. I hear that so much. Like, I asked a room about 40, 50 people. I said, and they're all public works, operators, supervisor. I said, how many of you had family in public works? And like more than half of the hands went up.
Sure.
It's so common that, families in it. Why do you think that is?
So I think there's not a lot of awareness on public works. Everybody is a city worker. You hear about the city workers a lot, but nobody really knows how to break into it. And there's not really, I wouldn't say, when you're graduating high school, there's no school counselors that go, hey, there's this program at this local college where you can take for a year, and then you're got some education. You can go be a public works worker. And a good example is my nephew took a 10-month program at St. Cloud Technical College, and he's a water operator for the city of Minneapolis now, making more money than all the other water operators in the state. He's great, and he's awesome, works hard, but coming out of high school, nobody says, hey, go be a city worker. So a lot of the people who end up being a city worker come from a family of city workers, or had a buddy who's a city worker. It's all about their network. It's not like anybody really applies for it.
Gosh, that's so true. I remember, I forgot who said it, but somebody said, city work is kind of like an old boys club, and it kind of rings true because even when I was growing up, like if you had an uncle who worked for the city or worked for the county or worked for the state, that was kind of your in. And if you didn't have somebody that was already in, it was kind of hard for you to just, like you said, just figure out about it out of the blue, because most guidance counselors are saying, oh, you should go to college, or you should do this and you should try that. But some of us just want to, work for the city, put in the good day's work, and then have that cool retirement from what government gets you.
Well, it used to be the benefits were amazing. You weren't always paid the best. Excuse me. You weren't always paid the best, but you had really good benefits. Now our pay is decent. The benefits, like everybody else, the medical is tough, no matter what company you work for or what organization you work for. It's tough for everybody to manage that because it's so expensive. But yeah, it's definitely, it can be fulfilling if you really stick with it and get some education and apply yourself. And the good old boys part, it used to be kind of a lot like that. It used to be when I first got my job in Blaine, there's over 200 applicants for one job. And
Jeez.
so there's a lot of that, so it does help to have somebody say, hey, this Eric guy, he's a good guy. You should probably take a look at him.
Yeah.
Nobody ever just gives you the job like that, but you gotta. And I had a little bit of experience. I was a combat engineer in the Army,
There
and
you
so I had a
go.
little bit of experience running equipment. So I wasn't totally coming in green, and that
Yeah.
helped out a lot. But that's really as part of the good old boys, it rings true a little bit where you got to kind of know. I
Yeah.
mean, your network. I mean, you're a network guy.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
network's
Yep.
huge.
Yep. Yeah, you got it. Answer this for me. So you came out of the services. Did the services point you like, I'm sure there's programs that say, hey, you got this skill set, you'll probably be good at these jobs when you get out. Did they ever point to Public Works at all?
No, not at all. They hold on here. I'm gonna stop this. Not at all. So when you get out of the Army, when I was getting out of it, it's different now. But when I got out of the Army, I got out in March of '01, April '01,
Okay.
and you went to this thing called ACAP, Army Career Alumni Program. It's a 1-day class. They teach you how to write a resume and how to do an interview. That's all it's
One
one
day
day.
class.
1 day.
One
Yeah.
day.
It's basically like, okay, we checked the box. We gave you a tool to go get a job. But that's
Yeah.
it. When you're gone, that's it. There's nothing left to do. And
Wow.
they don't point you in any direction. Like I said, I was a combat engineer. So we worked in explosives and, a lot of stuff like that. And I tried to translate that from the military world side to the civilian side. And the only thing that I could go get a job as was I could go out, and I'm from Minnesota, so I could go out to like Montana, Idaho,
Yeah.
the mountains area, which
Yeah.
sounds great to do demolitions. But that was really about it. I had some
Yeah.
equipment experience. I could run a backhoe, I could run a bulldozer, I could run a loader, drive a dump truck. So that kind of translated a little bit, but still it's a tough go a little bit when you get out of the service.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like so. You're a public works superintendent. Let's go into what your job description is, what you do. So, what's like? Start off with the random Tuesday. If you weren't on this interview blabbering with me, like, what would you be doing?
So my department and everybody I work with, we're responsible for the operation and maintenance of all the utilities in New Brighton, which is the water, the sewer, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer. We oversee the streets, the city-owned street lights, all the utility locating, and the fleet maintenance. So we got a lot. There's 17 of us in Public Works. That includes our mechanics. We have 2 mechanics, our admin, Kim, she's our admin. She's been here a long time. She's great. We have 72 miles of roads. We cover all that. And it's just, what am I doing on Tuesday? I'll tell you as we get there, because it seems like, the day starts out planned perfectly. And, everybody who's been in Public Works knows 10 minutes later, it could go sideways. But like today, a good example is today, we have some guys with paving up at the water treatment plant. We have the water treatment plant operator working on some chemical feed issues. We're out sweeping because it's fall time. All the leaves are falling. So we got to make sure we get as many leaves off the street as we can, and so they don't get in our storm sewers. That's what we're working on right now. We started, usually have a meeting every day, just kind of see what's going on, and then we just go to work.
Gotcha. Go to work. I like it. So answer this. You got 17 people within Public Works, right?
Yep.
Because some people will say that's a big organization, and as you know, it can be a smaller organization also. So in regards to workforce development, how do you, I guess, attract good talent? How do you keep good talent? How do you make sure good talent stays happy? How do you make sure guys who are trained the right way? How do you train the new guys? So what's it like having a 17-person organization and keeping people going in the right direction?
So since I've been here, we've seen the massive retirements, because we used to have a rule in '90 where your age plus your years worked, you could retire. So in Minnesota.
Okay.
So let's say, you've worked here, like Kim, she's in her 50s and she's worked here 30 plus years. So she's eligible for retirement.
Gotcha.
So we had that, a lot of guys retire. So I've hired probably 8 people since I've been here. And the way it's been really successful for us is look at when somebody says, hey, I know this guy, he's a really great guy, he's going to apply for the job. Okay. So we go through the human resources, the interviews, and let's say maybe he scored 6th out of 10 and the evaluation of the resume and the application. But we'll make sure we interview all 6, because we want to look at this one guy. And the last few that we've hired have a skill set that we don't necessarily hire for in his position. So we hired one guy, Tim, younger guy, great guy, but he was worked for Minnesota Equipment as a mechanic, but he didn't want to do that anymore. He wanted to be a city worker. So we
Sure.
hired him, and he knew one of our water treatment plant operators. They were friends. They worked together back in the day. He's like, "Hey, this Tim is a great guy." So we interviewed him. Yeah, and he was super nice, and he had a skill set that we normally wouldn't hire for as a maintenance worker. And that's what we found is really important, is looking for people, not necessarily looking for city workers, but looking for workers who have talent, maybe that
Yeah.
can diversify your pool a little bit on who can do what, and,
Yeah.
and then we always talk in the military, a workforce multiplier or a combat multiplier. So if one person can do 4 different things, I
Yeah.
mean, you're golden,
Valuable.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
especially Tim
Yeah.
works in our water department, and he's very mechanically inclined. I don't have to teach him any of that. And here in New Brighton, we have everybody does everything. So it's all OJT. You might come with a skill. Maybe you're a water operator and we hire you. You've been doing utilities for 10 years. You've never even sat in a street sweeper before. Well, come in here, you have to learn how to run a street sweeper. You have to learn how to run a snow plow, a big truck, big everything. They go to the whole bit because when everybody's on duty, a weekend duty, so you have to be able to come in at night and sweep up the road if there was an accident, or
Yeah.
come in
By
and
yourself.
salt the bridges, right? I mean, you got to be able to run everything. So a lot of what we do here is OJT. Our supervisors
Yeah.
are really good at training the guys. Yeah, so it's just a lot of that, and we hire guys that maybe normally wouldn't fit the mold, the typical city worker, but then they get here and they're just fabulous. We got a great crew, and everybody works really well together.
Love it, love it. I like when you started that answer off. You said you find the guys who are good already within your city, and then you ask them like, who do you know? And then then the referral is like, oh, he's a good guy. So you're hiring for just a person that's good, a good person, a good human being, and then you
Right,
train the skill and like you turn them into that force multiplier. I think a
right.
lot of, like you said, you're not hiring a city person who can sweep streets, because I guarantee there'll be a city person and they can sweep streets. But
Yeah,
at 2 a.m., can they salt bridges and can they do the plowing, like all that?
yeah.
It's harder to train that than and find a good guy who's willing to be trained, who's willing to
R-
take criticism, who's willing to pick up a new skill set.
Right.
I
Have
like
you
that.
ever heard a saying? It's not about having people on the bus; it's about having the right people on the bus.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
can teach. Like,
yeah.
you and I, we get along great. I hire you. It's like you're the greatest guy, but you never drove a street sweeper before. I can teach you how to drive a street sweeper in like 10 minutes. I
Right.
just need you to come to work. You want to show up. You want to do
Yeah,
the work. You want to get paid. You just want to do the right things, but you don't know how to do the work. We'll teach you how to do the work. No, I mean, we're all
yeah,
there, right? When I started my first job over 20 years ago, I had no idea about I could run a mower. I could run a little bit of equipment, but I didn't know anything about water. I didn't know anything about sewer. And 20 years later, I made a whole career out of, utilities. So I
yeah,
just
yeah.
try
What
to
do you
find the right person. Hire for fit. I always tell people, hire for fit.
However fit. What do you see in the generation gap? Because you probably 20 years ago you're with baby boomers, Gen
Yeah.
Xers. Now you're dealing with millennials and Gen Zers. Like, I'm not asking the positives or negatives, but are you seeing a different hiring process, a different, like, hey, these Gen Zers are better at, like, being jacks of all trades than the baby boomers? Like, what are you seeing in the differences there?
Well, so I mean, you've probably gone through all this. Like, the greatest generation, they'd work without question at the same company for 40 years, never asked for a raise, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
the
yeah,
boomers came along, and yeah, they'll work there. They want a little more, maybe. Okay, they're a little different. The Gen Xers come along, and yeah, we'll do the work, but we want to know everybody know we did the work, right? We don't want you to tell us. We don't want you to tell us that,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
yeah, you did a good job. We just want you to know we did a good job. So now we're on
yeah,
to millennials, and my kids are. We have a 25 and a 28-year-old at home,
yeah,
and they're a little bit different, right? We have one guy here. He's 29, I think. He just told me the other day, and I think the biggest thing is with them is um, empowering. I love to take every employee, and every employee is responsible for a certain, say responsible, because I'm still responsible, but we're responsible for a certain area. Like we have one young guy, Tony, great guy. He's in charge of our sign shop, making all of our street signs and all of our traffic control. And I tell him, hey, Tony, this is your area. If it's messed up, I'm coming to you. If you need something, you tell me. And it's like, he's just like his own little supervisor. He works for a street supervisor, but at the end of the day, we don't have much flexibility in our hours. We work 7 to 3. We take a lunch. That's it. We don't take no breaks during the day. We just work. And so we don't have a lot of flexibility on that. We got to be on duty. We got to come when they're called. Snowing, when it snows in the wintertime, who knows? It's 2 a.m. on Sunday. That's the life we chose. Water main breaks are unpredicted. So, but what we try to do is just take them young guys, and they want to be in charge. They want to know that they matter, for lack of better words, that of course they matter, but like you're the guy, if I need something done in the sign shop, Tony, you're my guy. And it works. It works for us.
Yeah. That's good. You're speaking to people or dealing with people where they're at, not how you want it to be.
Right. And I've always been, because I was the same thing. I joined the Army in 1992, and I kind of came in at the end of the old Army and the beginning of the new Army. So we had these old sergeant majors that were like the old boots. I mean, they were dress, and they're, you don't take no guff, and it was sometimes a little tough, but then you had newer guys who were like, okay, well, we're just going to do a great job, keep your military bearing and do a great job. Totally fine. I'm the same way. Hey, and I preach it all the time. Like, I'm the superintendent. I have supervisors. I have maintenance workers. But as a man, I'm no different. I'm married, got 2 kids, got a dog at home. I have one guy, he's married, got 3 kids at home, got it. Same thing. I mean, I just have a different job. I have a different job to do than he does.
Yeah.
And, we just focus on a lot of that, and hey, we're a team and we'll get there together.
Love it. Let's say you're mentoring your younger self. You're talking to young Eric. Eric's fresh out of military. And young Eric's like, hey, not old Eric, but seasoned Eric.
Yeah.
he asks you, hey, seasoned Eric, what skill set should I grab right away to be successful at what seasoned Eric is doing today?
Jeez. I always say, like, as a city worker, you got to be flexible. You got to be well-rounded. But I think younger Eric, I would say, like, start working on your education early. You can learn the job, but in order to stand out in public works, you don't need to be a rock star, but you just got to take that extra step. It's like, and separate yourself. I think that's kind of what helped me a little bit. Was I volunteer a lot with the American Water Works Association, the Minnesota section of the American Water Works Association. That really helped me networking and my professional growth. I got some really good mentors that work around the metro here that I've over the years. And it's like, my wife said to me one day, she goes, I'm so glad that you volunteer with the Minnesota section, because you get to hang out with these professionals and they mentor you and they help you, they point you in the right direction. You're not hanging out with just maintenance workers. Not that maintenance workers are bad, but it's like you got 2 different groups. You got the workers and you got you know what I'm saying? And that's really what helped me, is just, I don't know, keep your eyes open. That skill set, just networking, and look for more. I have another friend that I said, when you go work somewhere, you don't have to be a rock star. Just do everything the right way and do it well, and you'll stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. And over time, you'll start to rise to the top. All right, story time. I need a story from you of when something went wrong, or what went wrong, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
Oh, something I went wrong. Let's see here. I was thinking about this. So I don't know if it's necessary. I was gone. After I got out of the Army for 8 years, I did 15 years in the Guard, and I was away at my annual training, and a lift station had shut off and it wasn't working properly. And I was gone. I was responsible for the maintenance of the lift stations. And one of the lift stations didn't turn on when it was supposed to. It flooded a bunch of houses. I wasn't there. I didn't catch it. But I felt so bad because I looked at it and what could I have done differently beforehand to prevent this from happening? And when I came back, there was, there's always fallout from that, because when $1 million houses get flooded with sewage, it's not always a pretty picture, and there's a lot of insurance and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, even a $10,000 house, yeah.
Right, yeah. But I took it so much to heart that I was like, well, what can I do to make this never happen again? Because I just don't want, not even there, just anywhere. Like, what can we do? And I always get a little criticism from people like, you're always so negative. So I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to be the devil's advocate, because I really want to troubleshoot all of the problems. I don't know why my phone keeps ringing. Stop. Sorry. This won't stop. I'm gonna throw it out the window.
It's all good.
I don't know how to turn it off either. Sorry. I tried turning it to sending it. How do I do not disturb? Haha. Do not disturb. Okay. Sorry, I messed up the recording.
No, you're good. I might not need to edit it out. Go for it.
Okay, so where were we at?
Homes are flooded. You're on vacation or you're out.
So, in the military, they teach you to troubleshoot all your problems before they actually turn into problems. So it's kind of the same thing here. I try to pick away at things just so, we don't have problems later. Let's solve the problem before it actually turns into something. And so that's what I kind of did. And that's where, after the house is flooded, I looked at what happened and how I could have prevented it. And like I said, I wasn't even there. I was at drill that week. I didn't do it. It just be a freak thing. But what could I do in the future to stop that from ever happening again? And I take that to heart quite a bit. We try to troubleshoot and just hoping, stuff like that doesn't happen.
Sure. They call that a pre-mortem. They say what would happen for it to kill our business or to kill our operation. So you kind of do the triage beforehand to see what can happen. So same concept.
Right.
Love it.
It's kind of like a SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
You ever a SWOT analysis?
That sounds, yeah.
Yeah. So kind of like that.
Where are we good? Where are we bad at? What's
right.
around the corner
Right.
here? Yeah. Okay. What keeps Eric's sword sharp? Like, what are you doing daily, monthly, weekly, yearly to keep your sword sharp, keep up with the new stuff, like learn and operate more efficiently?
So I'm always looking for kind of, back in the day when I first started this, I was just trying to make it through the day. And once you get to a point, I think, I always tell people, like, when you get old enough and you're stable enough, like my boys are growing, my wife and I have been together over 20 years. Like, life is great, but what can I do and what can we do be better? So there was a time where I was like, I don't really just want to be a maintenance worker my whole life. I just was getting bored with it, and I always wanted to do more. When I was in the Army, I was in E5. I was a squad leader. I was a platoon sergeant. I got out, and it was great. But then you start all over again. You just start at the bottom. And what I really wanted to do is just have a bigger influence over Public Works. And I don't ever say do everything the right way or my way. I want to do everything the right way. So it may not be my way. It might be your way, but I want to make sure it gets done the right way.
Yeah.
So I started going to school. I got my certificate. I used my GI Bill. I went to night school for 8.5 years. Got my Public Works certificate. Got my degree. Learned a little bit about business through schooling and stuff like that. So what I'd like to do here for New Brighton is efficiencies, right? Work on efficiencies. We only have 17 people in maintenance. We had a guy who retired a couple years. He worked here 42 years. He said when he started here 40 years ago, they had 17 maintenance workers. So over 42 years that he worked here, they never created another spot. So we're we're expected to do more with the same. So what I work with my guys is, I don't want to do more with the same. I want to do more with better. So we buy new equipment, better equipment, more efficient tools. If we can spend a couple $1,000s on we just bought a power screed for concrete. Well, if we can buy that for a couple grand and do concrete twice as fast, well, that pays for the return on investment, and that is like quick, right? We bought a sewer camera a couple of years ago. It was expensive. It was $125,000, but the ROI on that was like 2.9 years, and we can keep it for 15 years. Yeah. So it's kind of a no-brainer, right? I mean, we just always have it. We can do all of our own televising. We get so much more work done. We save a ton of money. We were spending money to have it contracted out, and we just look at it differently and say, yeah, we got to make this big upfront investment, which is always hard for cities because we work on an annual budget.
Yeah.
Every year it's this how much you get this year, this how much you get this year, this how much you get this year. So when you're taking, usually you're paying $40,000 for televising, and you're going to take, well, I want $130,000, $125,000 to buy this camera.
What?
It's like, but you got to justify it, right? And our city council is great. They're like, yeah, no brainer. I mean, you're going to save the taxpayers, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's what I always like to do, is just like look at what make things better and more efficient. We just work as a team and just be professionals and run it as a business, not as a city. I always tell people we want to run it as a business.
That's a good point. Good point. Let's say we ask your 28-year-old. He said, if I asked him, hey, what does Eric do all day, every day for the community? Like what value does he add to the community? What would he get totally wrong about that answer?
Well, I don't know what do I do? Like I said, a lot of networking, I talk to a lot of residents, try to a fair amount of problem solving, try to keep our younger guys pointed in the right direction, try to keep them motivated, I say motivated, but give them a purpose. It's so one of the things about becoming a leader is my boss and my boss is amazing for me. He's just a few months older than me, but we talk about professional growth and organizational development and stuff like that. I said, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do because I was a maintenance worker and I became a supervisor. And then after I became a supervisor and then I became a superintendent here I've worked at 3 different organizations. The hardest thing I've had to do is learn how to supervise supervisors.
Supervise supervisors.
Yeah. So I have 2 supervisors that work for me, and how to get them to motivate their people, give their people direction. And then at the same time, I was just listening to a podcast the other day. One of the challenges of when people become leaders is that you have to understand like your influence over the group. That what you say, they're going to take at face value. I mean, they're going to, like, you say one thing, they're going to think that's the way it is. So I always try to make sure I say to my workers, like, hey, you guys did a good job. This is outside of what you normally would do, and you killed it. You guys, fantastic job. Yeah. And the same thing with residents. We have a captive audience, right? As a city worker, you have a captive audience. If they live at 6 Center Road over here, who are they going to go to complain? They can't go to the city next door to complain about us, right? That's not going to do anything.
Yeah. They can't shop you around. Yeah.
Right. So I always try to treat our residents like customers who have a choice. We do the best we possibly can with the tools that we have at hand. Somebody calls and complains that they got too many leaves in their street, but we were just there 2 days ago, and we got to drive by there to sweep the leaves again. Really, it's like 5 steps our way. You ever heard that 5 steps my way, 95 steps your way? So yeah. It's like no big deal for me to go there sweep, but for them to clean that up, it might be a huge deal. So we always try to say, hey, this is what we can do. It's not a big deal. Well, yeah, we'll make it work. And we just try to treat everybody like they're our actual customers and they have a choice.
Yeah. I like that. All right, let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard. This billboard is going to be in the most trafficked area of New Brighton. What ask of your community are you going to put on this billboard in regards to Public Works?
I always try to tell people, so we get some people who call and complain, and they call quite regularly, and sometimes they're not always, sometimes they're not always friendly. And I always try to tell them, we're just like you. We come to work every day. I can honestly look them in the face and go, we're trying our very best. Like, I'm sorry we came by it and we got a little bit of your front yard with the snowplow. It was 3 in the morning. There was 6 inches of snow on the road. I'm sorry. We'll come back and fix it. We come back in the spring and we fix it. We just try to let them know, like, hey, we're people too. We're not leaning on shovels here. We're doing our job. We're trying our very best.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like, if they call and say, hey, there's some broken glass on the corner of whatever road, and they're saying, I'm sorry to call. I'm like, no, you need to call. There's only, like I always tell them, there's only so many of us. We don't hit every street every day. if a street light is out, or if you have broken glass or something that we can take care of, I appreciate them calling me and letting me know that, hey, there's some broken glass. I don't appreciate the call that says, hey, ding dong, there's broken glass on the corner of whatever street and it's been there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, I haven't drove by there, in 3 weeks, and I didn't know. I won't know unless somebody tells me or if I see it. So I just tell them, hey, we're people too. If you see issues, let us know. We're more than happy to work on them. We'll do whatever we can to take care of it. And yeah, we'll all work together to get it done.
Love it. Love it. Let's say I'm coming to New Brighton. I text you ahead of time. I say, hey, Eric, where can I get the best burger in New Brighton? Where are you going to send me?
The Exchange. We have a place in town called The Exchange. They got a lot of food. They smoke their own meats. All their food. The burgers are good. The pizzas are good. They got these kimchi tacos.
Okay.
Oh, they're fabulous.
Okay.
Yeah, their French fries. My wife comes to lunch down here. It's come lunch with me sometimes, just so she can get the French fries at the Exchange. Yeah.
I love
That's
a
all.
good French fry.
Yeah, they got great food there, and they've been open. They're good. They're a good. I mean, they're a great restaurant, anyways, but they're good in the community, and yeah, everybody loves it.
Nice. I always like to leave a space for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey, and then also offer a word of inspiration and motivation to your industry counterparts.
So probably my one biggest mentor, and my wife 100% agree with me. And this is like, so I'll give a shout out to a few.
Go for
it. Back in the day, I used to, when I got out of the Army, I worked for a guy, First Sergeant Gene Spencer was his name. I was stationed at Fort Campbell, and he was like one of the greatest leaders I worked for in the Army. Stuck up for his people, just was dynamite. And just whatever he could do to get a little bit more out of you, he was there. He was awesome. He ended up retiring from the military. He's a great guy. I keep in touch with him a little bit here and there, but he's great. And sometimes it's kind of hard. So I worked for a supervisor in Blaine, and we did not get along. And he's like one of the people I should probably thank the most, is because we did not get along, and I was at the end of my rope, and I'm like, I can't do this my whole life. I can't even do this another day. So that like gave me that little kickstart to go to school, so I could get an education, so I could go somewhere else, do a little bit more. And it's kind of weird how you like think like if I had a good supervisor that I got along with, I'd probably still be there and not be where I'm at. So it's like kind of weird, how you think like just that little bit of change, the friction, just change everything. And then probably the one person who has absolutely helped me the most, his name is John Eaton. He works for the City of Egan in town here. It's a suburb. It's a southeast suburb of the cities. He's the one guy, like my wife talks about, is like she loves that I talk to John because he's professional. He's great at dealing with personnel problems. He's a financial genius. He's just smart, all around smart and level-headed. I've never seen him really get, too angry. He gets a little fired up once in a while, but he's just great. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know where I'd be without him, because he really has just done a lot for me professionally.
Nice. And let's say guys are in your seat right now. They're fighting the battle with you. They might be the next city over or another city around the country, around the world. What are you saying to them to keep them motivated, to keep them inspired, keep them going?
The two things that I always like to tell people, one thing is for sure is get involved with your professional organizations. We have a few groups in town here. We have a Suburban Utilities Superintendents Association. It's SUSA for short. We have the Minnesota section of the American Water Works Association. We have Wastewater Operators Association. We got Rural Water. We got these professional organizations you can become a part of and volunteer. So it's a little bit of extra work, but the volunteering part gets you connected with other cities, leaders from other cities, and that's where you learn different things, learn new things. You learn that you're not alone in this. It just get involved and continue to grow. Lifelong leader. I think Warren Buffett said that one time. He's a lifelong leader or lifelong learner. Sorry, a lifelong learner. And I just see that. Be that guy. Just keep on working and grow your network and know that you're not alone doing this job. And then the other half of this was what it's been a little tough the last few years with COVID and all the different regulations and the shutdown, lockdowns, and all this stuff. Yeah, right. It's just been a challenge. And like us, maintenance, we came to work every single day. We didn't miss any days.
Couldn't work from home.
You can't work from home. It's hard to plow a street from home, right? Yeah. So we're still working, and the term of essential worker kept popping up, and some of my guys got a little bit of chip on their shoulder, and they think like, yeah, I'm pretty essential. It's really hard, if the water don't flow both directions, right? You need the fresh water coming in and the wastewater going out.
Yeah.
What happens? Yeah. And I said, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I said, but the silent pride that you take in your job speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Kim doing your work, you'll get your comeuppance and you'll get your fair due.
Yeah.
And it was really nice because we were recognized by the city council as coming to work the whole time, like our public safety and the public works. We came to work every day through the whole entire pandemic, and we didn't miss a beat. So that's one of the things, like, lately is how it's kind of been.
Gotcha. I like it. Well, Eric, thank you for hopping on the show. Thanks for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge with us. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Eric, any final words before we get out of here?
No, just thanks for asking me to come on. It's been great, and I really appreciate what you're doing for the public works community.
For sure. About fire and PD being workers. I started a show where I can highlight people who I think are essential workers. So that's why we're here. So thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for putting in your time, effort, and energy. Also, thank you for serving our country. This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you for listening.